Okay, muy bien. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Today we're going to talk about telling time. This is section 1.4 in your manual panorama. I'm going to mention this is my third time recording this video lesson. The first time I didn't push record until I got to the end of the whole entire lecture. And last time I started hiccuping. So we're going to go for number 3, third time's a charm. Also, a little note, the QT by my office was out of soda today, so I am relegated to a can of Dr. Pepper Zero cream soda. Most delicious thing ever. So I hope you guys are comfortable. I hope you got your mate or your Coke Zero or Diet Coke or your water or orange juice, whatever it is, and you're ready to learn some Español. Page 24 in the manual is where this lesson comes from, talking about telling time. We're going to use 2 components of things we've already discussed in last week's lectures. The verb ser, which means to be, and the numbers. You've learned numbers 0 through 30 at least, and you'll use a bunch of those numbers today as we look at telling time. Obviously, an essential tool for your tool belt in Spanish, being able to understand and tell time, as well as ask things about time. So let's get started. One thing, the first bullet point, very important, time in Spanish is always feminine. And that's because the word for hour is la hora. And so that is a feminine noun. So we use feminine articles, la and las, sometimes una y unas, but the feminine form of these articles talk about telling time. The reason that you say la and las is because it's implied the word hora is in our sentence. And the word hora is not in the sentence, but it's implied. So we're modifying this invisible word with the articles la or las. So let's go through it. The first one you'll see there is son las tres. It is 3 o'clock. So a couple components. Son, that's the third person plural form of ser that you already learned. Las, again, it's plural because tres, which is 3, is a plural number. So because the hora, tres, is a plural number, then we're using son, the plural form, las, the plural form, and feminine form because horas is feminine. It's 3 o'clock. Son las tres. Clase, repitan, please. Repeat after me. Son las tres. Muy bien. It's 1 o'clock. Es la una. For the exact opposite reasons that we said in the first one. Es, because it's a singular third person form of ser. La, because it's singular. And una, because that's the time. That's how we say 1. And una is not uno, it's una, because again, we're talking about hora, which is feminine. So una is modifying this invisible feminine noun, hora. So clase, repitan, es la una. I'm sure that was very good. Third bullet point, son las 4:05 de la tarde. And we'll come back to those different modifiers that we're going to talk about today. But just look, son, because it's plural, right? Third person plural of ser. Las, because it's las horas, so it's feminine and plural. And 4 is multiple, it's not 1, right? So it's plural, so that indicates everything else. So some basic components of telling time. So the first important phrase to understand is ¿qué hora es? Clase, repitan ustedes, ¿qué hora es? I got some feedback that when I speak in Spanish, I speak very quickly. I know I speak quickly in English also, so I will work on slowing that down. So let's do that again. ¿Qué hora es? Muy bien. So when telling time, right, we're going to use es and la with 1 o'clock. We've already mentioned that. And son and las with the other plural hours. So the examples, es la una versus son las dos. So we have 3 clocks in the bottom. It's first one, it's 1 o'clock, es la una. Second one, son las dos. Third one, son las 6. So clase, repitan, es la una. Son las dos. Son las 6. Okay, muy bien. You'll notice that when somebody speaks fast in Spanish, it sounds like all words are put together. And I remember very well the first time learning Spanish, it was like, that's one very long word, and it was 2 sentences worth. It's something called linking. And so like on that last example, you're not going to hear a native Spanish or proficient Spanish speaker say son las 6, because las ends with the same consonant that 6 begins with. So you're going to hear things like son las 6, There's two S's in there, but you really only hear one. It sounds like someone saying son las seis. Son las seis. There's only one S, and that's called linking. So I do apologize. I'm going to try to speak slower so that you have a better chance to hear how it's pronounced correctly. All right. In English, it's not always just on the hour, right? So you'll say it's 5:10 or it's 6:20. So the minutes are expressed by adding the word E, which means and. So you would say it's 1 and 10. It's 1:10. So for example, in the first example, son las 4:05. That's right, son las 4, plural feminine, 4 plural. And then we're adding E5 for 5 minutes. So it's 4:05. It's literally 4 and 5. Son las 11:20. You learned 20, so good job. Literally, it's 11 and 20. So clase, repitan. Son las 4:05. Son las 11:20. Okay, muy bien. So when you're adding minutes from the hour until the half hour, we're using the word E. We're adding time in to that hour. When it's after the half hour, so from 31 through 59, we don't add minutes, we take away minutes from the next hour. So it's like saying in English, it's 10 to 12. What time is it? It's 10 to 12. Well, it's 11:50. But another way of saying that is it's 10 to 12, or it's 20 till 6, whatever it is. But we're taking minutes away. So you're going to look at the next hour and then subtract the number of minutes that it lacks, that it falls until that next hour. And we use the word menos. We talked last week about some basic math terms, and más and y and remember, anyway, menos is the one for subtraction. So we're subtracting numbers away. So in the first example, it's what time? It's 5:45. Well, it's 4:45. Sorry. And so we're really saying it's 5 minus 15. So clase, son las 5 menos 15. I'll say a little bit faster. Son las 5 menos 15. That means, again, 4:45. It's 15 until 5 o'clock. Second clock. Son las 10 menos 10. Clase, repitan. Son las 10 menos 10. Okay. In English, that'd be it's 10 minus 10, or it's 10 until 10. It's 9:50. Okay. So when you're adding numbers from 0 to 29 or 0 to 30, you are adding your E. When you're going from the 31 back up, you're taking away, you're using the word menos. So E and menos. All right, now there are some abbreviations. We have, just like in English, you can say it's 5 1/4, or it's 5 1/2. You can do the same thing in Spanish. Cuarto is the Spanish word for a fourth, and quince means 15. So you could use either one. On the half hour, you can use media, which means half, or you can use 30. So it's the same thing. So let's look at our examples. The first one, es la 1:15. You could also still say, es la 1:15. They're both correct. You can pick one way and use it your whole life without ever changing it. But you need to recognize when somebody else says the other way that you're choosing not to learn. So, clase, repitan, es la 1:15. Son las 9:15. 9:15. Son las 12:30. Son las 7:30. Okay, what I want you to do this time is to look at those 4 examples across the bottom and use the other one. So for example, the first one says, es la 1:15. What's the other way of saying that in Spanish? Think about that for a second. Could be es la 1:15. The second one, son las 9:15. What's the other way of saying that? Son las 9:15. Son las 12:30. What's the other way? Son las 12:30. And son las 7:30 could also be said as son las 7:30. So, 4:15, media, and 30 are the ways to go, say the 15s and the 30s. Okay, so here's some practice. Express time from the hour to the half hour. There's a review by adding minutes, right? Using the word E, and then to go backwards, taking minutes away. So take a second, write these down. Write down the times in Spanish, writing out the actual words, okay? So pause the video, write just really quickly these 4 numbers, and then come back. We'll check your answers, and we'll practice pronouncing them. Okay, so the first one, 2:14. Son las 2:14. Clases repitan. Son las 2:14. Muy bien. 7:29 becomes son las 7:29. Clases repitan. Son las 7:29. 4:07 son las 4:07. Clases repitan. Son las 4:07. And 1:17 es la 1:17. Clases repitan. Es la 1:17. Okay, muy bien. So if you didn't get all that, if you messed up either on the numbers or the adding part or the son and the la or the s and the la, then pause another second, go back a little bit and just review. Take a second, get your numbers better, look at the conjugations, look at when you use son, look at when you use s, and master this before you go on too much, okay? Assuming you're still with us, we're going to do another example. We talk about the half hour, from the half hour to the 59, as subtracting. We use the word menos for that. So I want you to look at these 5 clocks. You're going to write down your answers to these 5 times, pause, then come back and we'll look at them together. Okay, the first one. Es la 1:45, or just as good, es la 1:15. Okay, clases repitan. Es la 1:45. Es la 1:15. Muy bien. The next one, it looks like it's about 2:45. Son las 3:15, or son las 3:15. Clases repitan. Son las 3:15. Son las 3:15. Bien. Next one, it looks like it's about 7:40. Son las 8:20. Clases repitan. Son las 8:20. Muy bien. The fourth one, about 2:50. Son las 3:10. Clases repitan. Son las 3:10. Muy bien. And the third one, or the fifth one, you can take a little bit of math to figure this one out, right? Son las 2:17. Clases repitan. Son las 2:17. Okay. When we have this, the 143 with a little bit of math involved, I'll give you a tip here in just a screen or two. All right. Sometimes you just say things. I have an appointment tomorrow in the afternoon, and it's an undefined time period. Or tomorrow morning, I'm going to go to the store. Or tomorrow night, I've got to dance. So you're not saying an actual time, specific time. You're just saying a general undefined period of time. We use the verb, the preposition por. Por is a way of saying in this case, but we don't use the word en, which means in. We use the preposition por. So, for example, I have an appointment tomorrow in the morning. We would say por la mañana. In the afternoon or evening, por la tarde. And at night, por la noche. Okay? So the preposition por comes between la mañana, la tarde, or la noche. when it's a general time frame that you're explaining to somebody about. Okay, we also in Spanish they will say things like AM. You've learned the alphabet. AM means AM, and they'll say PM, but that's not very common unless somebody's being really specific. Usually they're reading something off when it's written. That's how it'll be. But you don't hear people conversely in conversation use AM and PM very often, although you will, and you'll know what it means. So, de la mañana, if it happens at a specific time, right? So I have an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning. Well, that's no longer an undefined time period. We've made that very specific. So, de la mañana. Tengo una cita, I have an appointment a las 9 de la mañana. My girlfriend got home a las 2 de la mañana. She got home at 2 o'clock in the morning. Just no bueno. In the afternoon, we say de la tarde. So, son las 4 de la tarde. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, as opposed to 4 o'clock in the morning. So obviously you need to distinguish. And then PM in the night, son las 7 de la noche. One thing to keep in track is that a lot of Spanish cultures, a lot of Spanish countries will use morning, afternoon, and evening depending on their meals. And so if they've not had lunch yet, it's still morning. So sometimes they'll say, at 12 o'clock in the morning because they're not having lunch until 1 o'clock. So it's kind of, you want to clarify and make sure you understand. And then from lunch until dinner is tarde, which means afternoon, and evening is from dinner later on, or noche, from dinner to later on. So you'll just, when you're traveling the world and you're speaking with people from different cultures, you'll just learn, but you'll hear those things, you'll see them written. So de la mañana, de la tarde, and de la noche. Now there are two specific words for noon, is mediodía. The word día, even though it ends in A, is a masculine noun. It's el día. So it's medio, and you're going to know for masculine, día, mediodía means noon. Es mediodía. Or al, A-L. Al is the second contraction. Last week we talked about del. Al is a plus el. So al mediodía. And then midnight, medianoche. Noche is feminine. So media with an A is a feminine form. And es medianoche, or a la medianoche. Okay, so here we have a couple different concepts. You got 3 new vocabulary words: mañana, tarde, noche. You've got por, so I guess the fourth one, and then 2 more: mediodía and medianoche, all both written out as one word. And then on the past screen we had that funky time. We had 1:43, and I told you, gotta go back. Sorry for all these. I give you a cheat word. Más o menos in Spanish means more or less. And you'll hear that on a lot of things. Even sometimes, like you'll say, ¿Cómo estás? Oh, más o menos bien, more or less, I'm okay. So you can use that with time as well. So instead of on the other example, instead of saying what it was, 1:43, you could say, son las 2 menos 15 más o menos. It's 2 minus 15 more or less. So instead of having to figure out the 17, you can go, son las 2 menos cuarto, más o menos. So if you don't have to be exact, just throw más o menos in there. Okay? So a couple different concepts here on this slide for you to remember and learn. All right, so we said on the very first slide to ask what time it is. We use the verb, the question, ¿Qué hora es? We use es la when it involves 1 o'clock, right? So es la 1, es la 1:20, es la 1:30, whatever it is. We use son las when it's a time past 1 o'clock because now the time is plural with 2 and on. To say 30, we use y media, or you can still use y 30. For a quarter, you can use cuarto or quince. For all other times, you can use the exact number on the clock, unless you're cheating a little bit and saying más o menos. When the time comes after 31, you're going to take the next hour and subtract the time. Before that, you're going to add it. And then one other tip is the phrase en punto, which means sharp or even on the dot. So, son las 5 en punto. It's 5 o'clock. And that's going to be, you'll hear that a lot of times, like, hey, tomorrow we're going to begin at 8 o'clock sharp. Your job starts, you got to clock in at 8 o'clock on the dot. So that's en punto. Okay? So just on this, all this is a review except for that en punto. So one little phrase for you to be aware of, and that's again just for your knowledge. So en punto. Okay. All right. Now we said to tell time, right? To ask time. Que hora es, to ask time. Now we're going to talk about using time with events. What time is something at? So que hora es is what time is it right now? You're asking for the time, right? But what if you want to say when is, or at what time is my class? Or my class is at this certain time. So to ask when the event takes place, you can use the phrase a que hora. At what hour is this taking place? And then to answer that, to say when it's taking place, the answer is a las. Okay. So a que hora es la clase de biología? What time? At what time is biology class? La clase es a las 2. The class is at 2 o'clock. ¿A qué hora es la fiesta? At what time is the party? A las 8. At 8 o'clock. So that's one of those phrases where you can go back and say the whole thing again. La fiesta es a las 8. Or you can skip the noun and verb and just answer with, just like you would in English. What time is the party? 8 o'clock. You don't have to say the party is at 8 o'clock. You can skip a lot of that stuff and just say the answer. So in Spanish, we would do the same thing, a las 8. It's awkward to begin a word like that, at what time is biology class? We do that because the a in Spanish comes first, even though you probably say, hey, what time is biology class? If you remember that you're asking at what time it is, then that helps you remember to use the a in Spanish. So that's the tip for the day, is that if there's an a in the question, there's going to be an a in the answer. So a que hora is a way to ask what time something's happening, and es a las is the way you answer that back. Okay, so again, just to review, en punto is a way for saying on the dot. Clase repitan, son las 8 en punto. Okay, it's 8 o'clock on the dot. Es el mediodía. Clase repitan, es el mediodía. Okay, means it's noon. Es la medianoche. Clase repitan, es la medianoche. It's 9 a.m., 9 in the morning. Son las 9 de la mañana. Clase repitan, son las 9 de la mañana. Muy bien. Okay, this one's got a couple here, almost a tongue twister. Son las 4:15 de la tarde. Notice that 4 is 4, cuarto is fourth, a percentage point, right, at a fraction. That's our word for 15, a quarter. So two different words. Cuatro, the number, the T before the R. Cuarto, the fraction, the R before the T. So clase repitan. Son las 4:15 de la tarde. Muy bien. Guys, I don't know if you figured it, but you just had an 8-word sentence in Spanish. That's amazing. We've gone from 1- and 2-word answers to 8-word sentences. Phenomenal. It's 10:30 at night. Son las 10:30 de la noche. Clase repitan. Son las 10:30 de la noche. Okay. Let me say that one a little bit faster, just so you can hear what the eventuality is that you're going to get to. Son las 10:30 de la noche. Okay. So again, that's like triple speed, but that's the way you're going to get to be able to do. I promise. All right. So 3 questions. I want you to go ahead and write this down real quick. The answer to this question. So, ¿a qué hora es la clase de español? In parentheses is your answer, 3 p.m. So pause here and actually write down. Again, you're looking, you're writing, you're listening, you're speaking, using all these senses to master these concepts. So number your paper real quick, 1 to 3, or type it down, and then answer these questions. Push pause. I'm going to take a drink and come right back. So refreshing. All right. Here we go. ¿A qué hora es la clase de español? La clase de español es a las 3 de la tarde. Okay. And again, we're using a complete sentence. That's a complete sentence. That is correct. Also, a las 3 de la tarde would be correct as well. Somebody asked you if you ever had on a quiz or a test and it says use a complete sentence, just notice that a las 3 de la tarde does not have a verb, and so that's not a complete sentence. It's a completely acceptable answer when somebody asks you the question, but it's not a complete sentence. So just be aware of what your instructions are. Okay, clase, repitan. ¿A qué hora es la clase de español? La clase de español es a las 3 de la tarde. Muy bien. I don't ever know how long to pause, so I just repeat it again in my head and think that that's how long it's taking you to repeat after me. Número 2. ¿A qué hora es el concierto? Concierto is a word for concert. You may have guessed that. Okay, 9:30 p.m. sharp. So you need to make sure you include all those parts in your answer. El concierto es a las 9:30 de la noche en punto. Clases, repitan. ¿A qué hora es el concierto? El concierto es a las 9:30 de la noche en punto. Guys, that's like a 12 or 13 word sentence. Well done. Número 3. ¿A qué hora son las lecciones? 10:45 a.m. more or less. Las lecciones son a las 11:15 de la mañana, más o menos. Clases, repitan. ¿A qué hora son las lecciones? Las lecciones son a las 11:15 de la mañana, más o menos. Okay, good job. You guys, assuming you're getting this right, of course, I have no feedback here. Can't see, we can't have an open session on this lesson, but you guys these are great concepts. Well done. All right, here's another exercise. Same thing, you're gonna pause this. You're gonna number your papers 1 through 14, and you're just gonna fill in the blanks. So go ahead, pause, come back, and then we'll do the pronunciation part. All right, you unpaused. Well done. I'm guessing that each one of you got number 1 right. Es la 1 de la mañana. Muy bien. Número 2. Son las 4:15 or 15 de la tarde. Clases, repitan. Son las 4:15 de la tarde. Son las 4:15 de la tarde. Muy bien. Número 3. Son las 3:10 de la mañana. Clases, repitan. Son las 3:10 de la mañana. Número 4. It's 8:30 p.m. Son las 8:30 o 8:30 de la noche. Okay. Clases, repitan. Son las 8:30 de la noche. Son las 8:30 de la noche. Okay, 9:15 a.m., número 5. Son las 9:15 de la mañana. Clases, repitan. Son las 9:15 de la mañana. Muy bien. Número 6, noon. Es el mediodía. Clases, repitan. Es el mediodía. Okay, now some of you may have written out 12 de la tarde or something out, but your indicator here is es, it's singular, right? So that tells you that's what we're looking for. Plus the el is the masculine form, so es el mediodía. Número 7, 6 a.m. Son las 6 de la mañana. Son las 6, clases, repitan, son las 6 de la mañana. Muy bien, número 8. Son las 4:05 de la tarde. Clases, repitan. Son las 4:05 de la tarde. Número 9. Es la medianoche. Clases, repitan. Es la medianoche. Muy bien. Número 10, 2:15 a.m. Son las 2:15 de la mañana. Clase, repitan, son las 2:15 de la mañana. Número 11, 3:45 a.m. Son las 4:15 de la mañana. Son las 4:15 de la mañana. Clase, repitan, son las 4:15 de la mañana. Repitan, son las 4:15 de la mañana. Muy bien. Número 12, 1:25 p.m. Es la 1:25 de la tarde. Clase, repitan, es la 1:25 de la tarde. Número 13, 6:50 a.m. Son las 7:10 de la mañana. Clase, repitan, son las 7:10 de la mañana. Muy bien. 10:40 p.m. So it's 11 minus 20, right? Son las 11:20 de la noche. Clase, repitan, son las 11:20 de la noche. Excellent. Okay, guys. Again, if you didn't get them all right, if you missed more than you like, then pause here, go back, look at the concepts before you get much further, and do some review for you. And then again, on page 25 in Panorama, you'll get some more help. Okay, we're getting there, guys, I promise. Here's this exercise. You're going to follow the model, and this one's going to have audio from Panorama here. So you're going to follow the model, you're going to ask, and then you're going to provide the answer to this question, basically, okay? So let's see, let me go through this. Okay, so like number 1, if you number your pages, your paper from 1 to 9, you're going to take this answer, you're going to write a question about it, and then you're going to answer your question, okay? So the first one, el programa Las Cuatro Amigas, that's the name of a program, a soap opera, is at 11:30. So you're going to ask the question, ¿a qué hora es el programa Las Cuatro Amigas? And now you're going to answer the question, okay? So I got you started here, number your papers 1 through 9, pause here and go through, ask a question, and then subsequently write the answer, and then come back. I feel like I need a little Jeopardy going on here while I'm waiting for you guys. Okay, so número 1, el programa Las Cuatro Amigas, 11:30 a.m. ¿A qué hora es el programa Las Cuatro Amigas? Es a las 11:30 or 11:30 de la mañana. So class, we're going to repeat each one of these, the question and the answer. Repitan, ¿a qué hora es el programa Las Cuatro Amigas? Es a las 11:30 o 30 de la mañana. Muy bien. Número 2. El drama La Casa de Bernarda Alba is at 7 p.m. So the question, ¿a qué hora es el drama La Casa de Bernarda? Y la respuesta, the answer, es a las 7 de la noche. Clase, repitan, ¿a qué hora es el drama La Casa de Bernarda? Es a las 7 de la noche. Muy bien. Número 3. El programa Las Computadoras at 8:30 a.m. So the question, ¿a qué hora es el programa Las Computadoras? Y la respuesta es a las 8:30 o 8:30 de la mañana. Clases, repitan, ¿a qué hora es el programa Las Computadoras? Es a las 8:30 o las 8:30 de la mañana. Muy bien. Número 4, la clase de español, 10:30. ¿A qué hora es la clase de español? Es a las 10:30 o 10:30 de la mañana. Clase, repitan, ¿a qué hora es la clase de español? Es a las 10:30 o 10:30 de la mañana. Muy bien. Número 5, la clase de biología. 9:40 a.m. ¿A qué hora es la clase de biología? Es a las 10:20 de la mañana. Clases repitan. ¿A qué hora es la clase de biología? Respuesta, repitan, es a las 10:20 de la mañana. Número 6, la clase de historia a las 10:50. ¿A qué hora es la clase de historia? Es a las 11:10 de la mañana. Clases repitan. ¿A qué hora es la clase de historia? Es a las 11:10 de la mañana. Muy bien. Número 7. El partido, which means game, de béisbol. And you can probably figure out that means baseball. So, la pregunta número 7, ¿a qué hora es el partido de béisbol? Y la respuesta es a las 5:15, 5:15 de la tarde. Clases repitan. ¿A qué hora es el partido de béisbol? Es a las 5:15, 5:15 de la tarde. Muy bien. Número 8, el partido de tenis, which means tennis, at the 12:45. ¿A qué hora es el partido de tenis? Es a la 1:15 o 1:15 de la tarde. Clases repitan. ¿A qué hora es el partido de tenis? Es a la 1:15 o 1:15 de la tarde. Muy bien. Y la última, número 9, el partido de baloncesto o básquetbol, 7:45. ¿A qué hora es el partido de baloncesto? Y la respuesta es a las 8:15 o 15 de la noche. Clases repitan. ¿A qué hora es el partido de baloncesto? Es a las 8:15 o -15 de la noche. Okay, muy bien. And just interest-wise, most countries will use basketball. Just the way it's spelled, but pronounced with more of an English accent, just like baseball. That's their phonetic way of pronouncing how they imagine we say baseball. So basket or basketball would be more common than baloncesto. Baloncesto literally means ball in basket. So it's a formal way, I guess, of saying that. Okay, this is our last exercise. This is not in the text, but I wanted to add something in here for you. The context that you're asking a counselor what time different classes meet. And so you're going to read, for example, it says, la clase de español. You're asking yourself, ¿a qué hora es la clase de economía or español? You're going to hear the recording give you the answer. Es a las 11:20 de la mañana. You're going to write, using a complete sentence, what you hear the person say. So you understand the classes are written here for you, but you're not going to see in writing what the person's saying. So you're going to use your listening skills and pause as much as you need to, go back and rewind. But I'm gonna push the sound will come through. You'll hear all these questions and the times given to you in Spanish. Write them down, your answers 1 through 6, and then we'll go back and I'll show you the answers and we'll check and see how you did, and we'll practice repeating again this English or the Spanish questions and answers. Okay.
3. ¿A qué hora? You are trying to plan your class schedule. Ask your counselor what time these classes meet and write the answer. Modelo. You see, la clase de economía. You say,
¿A qué hora es la clase de economía?
You hear,
Es a las 11:20 de la mañana.
You write, 11:20 a.m.
1.
Except you're going to write in Spanish.
Es al mediodía. 2. Es a las 9:15 de la mañana. 3. Es a las 8:30 de la mañana. 4. Es a las 4:15 de la tarde. 5. Es a las 11:10 de la mañana. 6. Es a las 2:05 de la tarde.
Okay, how'd you do? So 6 options there. You heard a native Spanish speaker telling you some times. Let's see how you did. Let's compare your answers to my answers. Okay, first one he said was es al mediodía. It's at noon. Second one, es a las 9:15 de la mañana. 9:15 in the morning. Número 3, he said es a las 8:30 de la mañana. 8:30 a.m. Número 4, es a las 4:15 de la tarde. It's 3:45 p.m., right? So 4 minus a quarter, 3:45 p.m. Número 5, es a las 11:10 de la mañana. So it's at 10:50, right? 11 minus 10 in the morning. Número 6, es a las 2:05 de la tarde. Okay, so clase, we're going to go through each one of these. We're going to ask the question and then the answer with you repeating me. So repitan. ¿A qué hora es la clase de español? Es al mediodía. Número 2. ¿A qué hora es la clase de biología? Es a las 9:15 de la mañana. Número 3. ¿A qué hora es la clase de historia? Es a las 8:30 de la mañana. Número 4. ¿A qué hora es la clase de matemáticas? Es a las 4:15 de la tarde. Perdón. I would not do well with a math class. It started at 3:45 in the afternoon. Número 5. ¿A qué hora es la clase de arte? Es a las 11:10 de la mañana. Número 6. ¿A qué hora es la clase de inglés? Es a las 2:05 de la tarde. Okay. So again, if you didn't get it right, then pause, rewind back to that part where the native Spanish speaker was saying the times that you were transcribing. If you got it right, it wouldn't be bad to go back and listen to it again. The more different people you hear talking, the more accents that you hear, the more you understand those words as they're coming through, the faster this is going to go for you, the more successful you're going to be in learning and being effective at speaking Spanish. So great job. It's fun now. We're second weekend, you've seen different lessons come into play. In this one, we reviewed plural, we reviewed masculine and feminine, you reviewed the conjugations of the verb ser, you reviewed first and second person plural and singular verb conjunctions. Those numbers 0 through 30. That's why we had you learn those numbers, is because you use all those numbers telling time. So great job. Don't get frustrated if it's coming slow. Just keep reviewing. Again, my Zoom hours are open. You send me an email or request a Zoom conference time. I hopefully by the time you're seeing this, I will have posted when a regular Zoom, I'll just be here in my office with a Zoom open to see who pops in, but I'm always able to make a Zoom appointment if whatever that office hour is going to be. I just have to align with my patients, but I want to help, so let me help. You guys are doing great. We'll talk to you soon. We'll have another lesson.